A song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Let us pray. Almighty God, we have truly come over a path where your servants' seeds have been planted and watered. Lord, as we stand here today, once again honoring one of our mighty oak trees in the person of husband, father, freedom fighter, abolitionist, author, orator, statesman, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey Douglass. We ask that you continue to strengthen those of us, the acorns of this mighty oak, who serve to continue the legacy. As they do, some will critique and question, why do we need another tribute to Douglass in that same relaxed pose with outstretched hands? Yet, Lord, grant us the vision to strive also to reach that same pose in each and every one of our lives as we come to the end of our own individual journeys. Lord, as we look at Douglass with the outstretched hands, keep us ever reminded that when our hands are outstretched, we are in the perfect position to help somebody as we pass along, so that our living shall not be in vain. Yet not only that, let us be ever mindful that prior to the relaxed pose, Douglass had to raise those hands to fight. Yet not only that, help us to realize that in each and every one of our lives, we too all have battles that we must fight. Yet when we look to the hills from whence our help comes and turn to you, as the songwriter says, we gonna be all right. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. Amen. Good morning and welcome. I am Reverend Julius D. Jackson, Jr., and it gives me great honor to be with you today as the one granted the vision for illuminating the monument of Frederick Douglass that stands in Highland Park, and as a pioneering voice advocating for the renaming of this airport. It is truly an honor to have witnessed both of these visions reach fruition and be standing here in the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. Yeah. It must be noted that I am also a proud member and former presiding officer, a past master of Eureka Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons, Prince Hall affiliated, where my predecessor, past master John W. Thompson, along with our fraternity brothers, worked to raise the funds to commission the aforementioned original Douglass Monument in Highland Park, the first monument erected to an African American in this United States of America. Throughout the years, I, with the support of my Eureka Lodge brothers, as well as many other community friends and supporters, have sponsored numerous events in Douglass's honor, as we will continue to do in the future. It is my hope and prayer that when the time comes for the next one, that you will join us. But it is now my pleasure to introduce Carvin Eisen. Carvin is the general manager of Rochester Community Media and a nationally award-winning Emmy-nominated filmmaker whose films have been broadcast nationally on PBS and in multiple broadcast venues around the world. He is a former board member of the International Input Film Festival and a longtime tenured professor at SUNY Brockport. He sits on the board of the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives and chairs the Art Committee as a member of the Frederick Douglass Airport Advisory Committee. And with Blue Cease, the executive director of the Rochester Contemporary Art Center, he is the co-founder of the Re-Energizing the Legacy of Frederick Douglass project that was launched in 2017. This project is best known for installing the fiberglass statues of Frederick Douglass around the city, which make up the self-guided Douglass Tour. In some ways, Carvin can be likened to a modern-day John W. Thompson, in that he too, like many of us, counted it not robbery to place himself in the shoes of Thompson to carry on his legacy. Specifically, Carvin is the force behind the effort to bring this bronze statue, created by the immensely talented Olivia Kim, to this place on this day. Like my brother predecessor John W. Thompson, Carvin has been simply relentless, and today we gather to celebrate what has been accomplished through his efforts. Although he is not my Eureka Lodge Mason brother, it gives me great honor to welcome my friend who has certainly become like a brother in many other ways to me. Please join me in welcoming Professor Carvin Eisen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you ever so much. You are too kind. I wonder, like, who is that guy you're talking about? I'm too busy working. Wow. I am so thrilled to be here. And before we get things going, right, we have an extraordinary excerpt from Garth Fagan's North Star, dedicated to Frederick Douglass on the bicentennial anniversary, and Norwood Pennywell is going to perform a section called Reverence. So you are in for a treat. Thank you ever so much. P? Okay, one sec. Got to connect it to the...
Ladies and gentlemen, he cannot jump on the concrete floor.
Okay, here we come, P. Here we go. Thank you, PJ. Thank you, Garth. On behalf of Rochester Community Media and the Re-Energize the Legacy of Frederick Douglass Project, welcome everyone. And I want to give a very special thanks right at the beginning to the extraordinary talent that we have in this community, the choreographer, artistic director, founder of Garth Fagan Dance, brings Frederick Douglass to life for us through the performance of Bessie Award winner Norwood Pennywell Jr. And this is just a fraction of the talent that we have in this community. Am I right? All right. The way our original program was designed, we were supposed to wait about halfway through and build anticipation and unveil the monument later, but forget that. Let's do it now. Nettie, would you come up? Bring the children. They know what to do. You can help them if they don't. All right, so be part of it. Yeah, all right. Here we go. So we're going to do it now. Justice, could you, just 1 second before you do this, Justice, come on over. This is one of the most important things that has happened in Rochester in 123 years. That's the last time a monument to recognize Frederick Douglass was unveiled. So we are taking this responsibility to set this forward for the next several generations. It will be in this airport in perpetuity. So let's make this happen. Justice, take it away. Artist Olivia Kim is going to talk more later, but I want you to know this is extraordinary, right? There are few people in the world working like this now. This is old school, old master technology that she obviously has a fidelity for and the ability to make metal. This is bronze, bend to her will in the form of Frederick Douglass, and this has been I am just so glad this is done. We've been carrying this burden. We've been carrying this burden since 2019. After Adam was elected, I started sending letters, Chris and I. Could we put a monument in the Monroe County Airport? And the rest is history. So thank you. And thank you, Olivia. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so bear with me. I've taken something to try to calm myself down a little bit because I'm just overexcited. I'm overexcited. I'm used to speaking to large groups of people, but this is more than I anticipated. All right. It's a great day. It is no question it's a great day. And I would especially like to welcome some of our very special guests. First of all, Olivia Kim, as we have said, but joining us to share this moment today is Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie Teresa Dominguez. Thank you. Congressman Joe Morelli. The people of the United States came through with money to make this happen. Assemblyman Harry Bronson. The people of New York State came through to make this happen, and this is so important because it was that way originally. County Executive Adam Bellows, Mayor Malik Evans, honored to have you here. And my good friend and my brother, Ken Morris Jr., three-time great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, Dr. Heidi McPherson, president of SUNY Brockport, and many other special guests, especially Nettie Washington Douglas, who is here with us, and all the other people who I can't take the time to single out. Levon Shepard, very important artist in our community. This is a great time. And I'm gonna try to say this in my own words. We tell the story of what we value in a community through what we place in the public square. You feel me? You understand that? What we put to recognize who we are, that shows the world what we value. And our community in Rochester, New York did something extraordinary 123 years ago. While the rest of the nation was erecting monuments to honor the lost cause of the Civil War, right? Rochester, New York did something entirely different. Rochester, New York erected a monument that brought the community together in the form of Frederick Douglass, and this is no small thing. Why was the rest of the country decentralizing around a lost cause and Rochester coming together around Frederick Douglass? And this is so fitting that it would be in an airport, because when the original monument was unveiled, it was actually at the train station where Mayor George Warner at that time said he wanted the world to know that Rochester's most illustrious citizen was a black man. You feel me? This is real. This is very, very real. So I stand honored today that we can put this here in this airport, and this is just really the beginning of this, and as we go forward, we're going to talk more about this. In more water. In more recent years, as monuments were tearing communities apart, here in Rochester, the Frederick Douglass Monument brought people together. And as you know, our project, Re-Energize the Legacy of Frederick Douglass, put 13 fiberglass monuments on the streets of Rochester in places that were important to Mr. Douglass's life. There is real significance in placing this bronze monument here in the airport today. As GM of Rochester Community Media, this is especially proud for me and RCTV. This is really, really important because if Frederick Douglass was here, a man who wrote biographies and a man who was a journalist, a statesman, I have to believe that Frederick Douglass would use the services of community media to get his word out, right? To use photography and video and gaming and all STEM-related technologies and educational opportunities. Re-Energize the Legacy of Frederick Douglass is a collaborative effort with lead partners RCTV and Rochester Contemporary Art Center, represented here today by Blue Cease. Blue, are you here somewhere? Blue Cease, our partner who made this project happen. Thank you. And I am proud to be a part of this movement in recent years that celebrates Douglass with so many others in our history and so many others who live here. We are all Frederick Douglass. We are all Frederick Douglass. We all have a piece of this. We all have a part of it. Malik Evans is part of Frederick Douglass, right? The legacy of Douglass. what we're doing here at the airport, in addition to objects, which are important, there's a living legacy that we all hold stake in, that we all are part of. And I want to, at this time, a person who has been significantly keeping that legacy alive long before the bicentennial ever took place, Dr. David Sankofa Anderson, and I'm going to ask Kareem to come up and say a few words. You got it?
Good morning. This is such a great occasion, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. For more than 4 decades, Dr. David Sankofa Anderson has been acknowledged as the renowned historian on Frederick Douglass. As an elder and respected community leader of Rochester, he is a widely sought-out authority on Douglass' legacy as abolitionist and a great orator. Dr. Anderson is a founding member of the Black Storytelling League of Rochester. And for many years, he has been a visiting scholar at Nazareth College of Rochester, New York. In February, he was presented with the Liberty Medal on behalf of the New York State Legislature, their highest award honor. And he was the voice and the relenting force behind the successful effort to rename School Number 12 in honor of Anna Murray Douglass. During the 200th anniversary of Frederick Douglass' birth, Senator Charles Schumer appointed Dr. Anderson to the Bicentennial Commission of Frederick Douglass, saying he has made invaluable contributions in preserving and teaching the history and legacy of Frederick and Anna Murray Douglass and their entire family. We were also proud that Dr. Anderson accepted the role as the Emeritus Chair of our own Frederick Douglass Bicentennial Commemoration Committee. Dr. Anderson, it is my honor to present you with this plaque in appreciation for your tremendous contributions to our community. Thank you.
And now, hopefully, under the watchful eye and gaze, and approving gaze of Mr. Douglass, we want to invite some of our special guests to have words. And I just want to tell you at this time, after all my springs have come and gone, it gives me extraordinary pleasure to know that this is going to be here forever. After all of our springs have come and gone. This is good. All right, I am so pleased to welcome New York State Department of Transportation Commissioner Marie Teresa Dominguez to the stand. Please come. Thank you.
Wow. What an incredible day to be in Rochester. To hear the passion, the determination, the sense of overwhelming community spirit and partnership and collaboration up and down to make sure that we never, ever forget the tremendous legacy that Frederick Douglass has provided to us as a nation, certainly here in Rochester, which, as you said, will live forevermore. But 122 years, this day has long been in coming. So thank you all. It's an honor to join you today. My name is Marie-Therese Dominguez. I have the great pleasure of serving as Commissioner of the New York State Department of Transportation. You're in one of the finest transportation facilities that we have in the state, this airport. And what a true tribute that it has been renamed in his honor. It's really phenomenal for me to be joining you all here today. On behalf of Governor Kathy Hochul, I want to say thank you. Thank you very, very much. Not only do we get to celebrate and pay tribute to this great national icon who called Rochester his home, but we get to advance his legacy in so many significant and meaningful ways. Because each of us will live on beyond this day, not only remembering it, but telling the story. And part of that oral history has to come from us, from each of us that are participating today. Because that's part of the legacy. While Frederick Douglass was an amazing scholar, statesman, and so many other things, part of what he left behind is his writings and how important and influential they've been to our country. Frederick Douglass truly devoted his life to the most critical fight of his generation, the abolition of slavery. And Rochester obviously truly remains his proud home, both posthumously and during the course of his lifetime. Our society has definitely advanced since the days of Frederick Douglass, but the work of eradicating injustice is far from over. We're still fighting for equity. We're still fighting for equality on so many different fronts. And we're still working to right the wrongs of the past. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through infrastructure. One of the ways that we know that we can invest in our communities is through infrastructure. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit the Clarissa Street exhibit in downtown Rochester. And it tells an amazing story, not only through pictures and memories and records, but through the people that take you through the exhibit. Members of families who were truly separated when we built infrastructure, hard infrastructure, through the city of Rochester. So listening and talking directly to those family members who were directly impacted by this type of progress, right? We know that we can do more. So what I want to talk a little bit about today is that level of how do we actually reconnect communities across the state that have been divided by physical barriers like infrastructure and left behind from the meaningful opportunities that truly now we know can inspire generational growth. No one can be left behind. Everybody needs to move forward. And when we invest in infrastructure, we know that all boats are lifted and it provides that level of opportunity. So here in Rochester, we're going to build on the progress that was achieved by the Interloop, the first section of the Interloop, a great partnership between New York State DOT and the city of Rochester to deliver that first project, which was completed in 2017, and which has truly revitalized neighborhoods. We know, we've demonstrated that this is a direct benefit. It's spurred economic growth and development. We know that it truly can reconnect a community. So that's why New York State, under Governor Hochul's leadership, is investing $100 million to convert the remaining portion of the Interloop into a community boulevard that will fully reconnect severed communities downtown when the Interloop was originally constructed. We know that we have more work to do, and we're about that work right now. And our partnership with the city is truly remarkable. We're very grateful for everybody's leadership. I'm looking around this room. The level of community partnership that we've had at every level of government, from the feds to the states, local, across the board. Your leadership, Rochester, in case you don't know it, you have a fantastic delegation, and we are just happy every day that we can work with them. Thank you. The bottom line is that we know that we can inject opportunity and vitality for the residents and truly lift all boats. And we're going to keep investing, right? I talked about the airport. This airport didn't really look like this a few years ago, right? This is a great example of not only the level of investment, but the opportunity to name it after Frederick Douglass. This will live on forever. This beautiful facility truly is proof of everything we have to gain when we invest in infrastructure and specifically in our regional airports. The governor recently announced another round of funding, $230 million in awards to 9 upstate airports to revitalization projects like this. $18 million came directly here to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. To further, yeah, it's a big deal. These dollars are going to further improve the passenger experience and the building operations, and this is already on top of the $40 million the airport received in round 1 of the competition that helped transform this airport. It really is a much better passenger experience. We appreciate everybody at the airport for all the work that they're doing, but this is a collective, once again, working at all levels of government to make sure that these projects are delivered, but also that these investments are made. And we're going to continue to partner with our airports statewide to deliver the aviation infrastructure as well as the roads, bridges, everything that we do to stay economically competitive and make sure that our communities are vital, that we improve the quality of life of every citizen in the state of New York. We know that when we invest in infrastructure, all of that happens. So I just want to say the legacy of Frederick Douglass will live on forever. But this type of reminder, this incredible statue, all of the people that came together to make this happen, let us never forget. It took sacrifice. It took all of your collective efforts, and we need to keep that message going forevermore. Thank you again for inviting me to join you all today. Frederick Douglass and his work have left an indelible mark on America, one that we respect and, again, will continue to advance. All of us in public service must honor his commitment to making this world a better place for those who will inherit it from us. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. One of the reasons that this monument is here is because when the fiberglass monuments were rolled out, before they were on the street for a year, there was unfortunately vandalism. And the National Endowment for the Arts contacted us and said, what could they do to help? And in fact, they wanted one of the broken monuments. And I said, oh no, we're not sending one of the broken monuments away. Long story short, the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for Humanities, vetted by the people of this country, decided that this was important to do and supported us every step of the way. And that is how some of the funds came to do this. And to represent our country today and our community, Congressman Joe Morelli. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm not going to lie. I get asked to speak at a lot of events. I'm really blown away this morning. This is really extraordinary, extraordinary. First of all, I want to thank Carvin for not only for that kind introduction, but the important work he does day in and day out. He and his team, they're doing through the re-energizing the legacy of Frederick Douglass project and all the incredible contributions that he and his network have done over the years. And let's give them another big round of applause. I love you, Garth. I just love you. And I'm going to say something that is probably impolitic, but everybody's thinking who's my age, which is I've been watching Norwood Pennywell Jr. for it seems like decades. And frankly, I'm just annoyed. Where is he? Norwood? Man, I don't know. For guys my age, we're just getting fatter and older. He's the most annoying person to watch. I mean, that was amazing, amazing, amazing. Really. So I'm going to be all over the place here. But it is an honor to not only be at, but to say that I'm at the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. And to be here with so many colleagues in government, Commissioner Dominguez, thank you again for being here and for your eloquent words, and of course, Mayor Evans and the county executive who helped bring this to fruition, all my colleagues in the state delegation, members of the family, and I had the privilege of talking to Kenneth before, and Nettie Washington Douglas, which was just a delight to be able to spend time, the whole Douglas family group that have helped make this happen, to all of our friends, and to see Dr. Anderson receive a much-deserved award. I don't think this community can ever repay Dr. Anderson for his amazing, amazing contributions. Give him a round of applause. And certainly last but not least, we have to give, I'm sure we'll give many, but I'd like to encourage one more round of applause for Olivia Kim. This is magnificent. On the one hand, I want to touch it, and yet, I don't know, people are probably not supposed to touch it. Knock, knock. I mean, it's really, it's extraordinary. So, on behalf of the National Endowment for the Humanities and the National Endowment for the Arts, who will provide federal funding, as Carvin said, I want to thank the many community partners who made this happen. This extraordinary doesn't happen because of one individual or two. It takes literally an entire community to do it. And I just want to take a moment to reflect on the life and legacy of the man who we've come to honor. Frederick Douglass, as everyone knows here, was a trailblazer, freedom fighter, an iconic part of Rochester's history. I also want to point out that Susan B. Anthony is with us today as well. So thank you, Susan, for being here, partner. And Frederick Douglass is an integral part of our community's long and storied history of standing up to injustice. I think too often, and I was saying this to Nettie beforehand, that I'm afraid that not enough people around the country know of the connection to Rochester. When I'm in Washington, people will sometimes say to me, why are you going on about Frederick Douglass? I said, what do you mean? What's his connection to Rochester? This is it, man. It all happened here. We need to continue to tell that story. This is going to help us, and it's fitting that a statue of Frederick Douglass be one of the first things travelers see when they arrive here in Rochester, a clear and constant reminder of the values that we all uphold. Frederick Douglass once said, "The life of a nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous." A reminder we need to hear all of that now more than ever. And we've really reached a critical crossroads for our democracy, one where many of the rights Douglass championed have come under attack. And it's up to us to choose the path of virtue by carrying on the fight Frederick Douglass began, the fight for equality, freedom, and opportunity for every American, the fight to safeguard free and fair elections, to protect women's rights, to reduce poverty, create jobs, and ensure every family has the tools to succeed. So while today is a fitting and appropriate celebration, it should also be a call to action for each one of us. And I know everyone in this room will answer that call and will continue to answer the call. May Frederick Douglass continue to inspire us to build a stronger, more prosperous, more equitable community and nation. So once again, Olivia, thank you for your inspiration. Carvin, my partners in government, everyone gathered here for helping ensure Frederick Douglass's legacy lives on and on and on. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Back in the day when the original monument was unveiled, it was the people of the state of New York who donated and awarded $3,000 to the creation of the monument. That was the first gift to come through. And when we needed help, the people of the state of New York came through again in the form of Representative Harry Bronson, who has walked this distance with us from the beginning to help us generate the resources that we need to make this possible. Representative Bronson, please come up.
Thank you, Carvin. Congressmember Morelli, like you, speak at a lot of events, but this is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The symbolism in the image of Frederick Douglass in the world that we live in today cannot be understated. The world we live in today nationally and right here in the city of Rochester and Monroe County. We have a lot to learn from that legacy, and we have a lot to live through that legacy to make our world better as Frederick Douglass made his time better for many, many people. Olivia Kim, magnificent. That's the word that comes to mind, magnificent. You have captured, again, the essence of Frederick Douglass, and I think, at least in my mind, the meaning of the man for our city and our country. So, Olivia, thank you again. Carvin, unrelenting commitment, unrelenting. And I'm not going to miss the phone calls about where's the funding. The state is horrible about that, by the way. They promise the money, but it's always late coming. But it's been great working with Carvin and others as we move this forward. Dr. Anderson, as others have said, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your contributions to our community and making sure that we never forget Frederick Douglass. So thank you. And, you know, we can't forget Reverend Julius Jackson. So some of those speeches that I've talked about have been, you know, at events illuminating the original Frederick Douglass statue in Highland Park, and working to move the statue to a more visible, accessible location in the park. And you all should know, 2006 is when J.D. Jackson approached me originally as a county legislator and said, can we make this happen for the original statute, and also mention the airport. And here we are in 2022. Thank you, J.D. And I also want to thank my state delegation partners, Senator Jeremy Cooney, Senator Samar Brook, Assembly members Sarah Clark, Jen Lunsford, and Damon Meeks. This is a great team. An amazing team, and I want to share, and this is off script, I apologize, but I think it fits why we're here today. This delegation made a commitment to each other and made a commitment to the community that when we're making policy decisions and when we're making funding investment decisions, we would look at those decisions through the lens of social equity and racial justice, and we've done that. Thank you, my delegation. And Congressmember Morelli, thank you for helping out with the funding at the federal level, and County Executive Adam Bello and Mayor Millie Gevins, thank you as well for partnering in all of this. You know, Rochester, as has been mentioned, is the home of Frederick Douglass for 25 years, I think it was, and it's really my honor to represent the area where his home was and to represent the area where the statue is currently the original. and Damon represents this area. So, you know, it's really an honor to, you know, kind of feel like I represent Frederick Douglass as a constituent. I know that's not true, but he's buried in my district, so maybe it's true. But he, it was here in Rochester that he not only sheltered freedom seekers, but led them to a safe departure to Canada. It was here that he amplified his voice in urgent issues of the day by publishing the North Star newspaper. It was here that he worked tirelessly, day in and day out, to uplift the lives of countless others. And it is here, as I mentioned, that he is buried. For the last 4 years, starting with the celebration of the bicentennial of Douglass's birth, our city and our region has been focused on the meaningful legacy of Douglass. I have been both pleased and proud to have been, you know, very small part, but a part of that journey as we lift up Frederick Douglass and what his legacy stand for. And again, I want to thank Carvin as well as Blue Cease for your efforts in, you know, really stirring up an enormous amount of energy around re-energizing the legacy of Frederick Douglass. And you know, as we celebrate here today, and we look at Frederick Douglass, we need to thank Ken and Nettie for making the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative home here in Rochester. So thank you. You know, Frederick Douglass may have been enslaved, but in his mind and his spirit, he belonged to no man. He was a freedom seeker, freedom of the body, freedom of the mind, and freedom that comes through education. The freedom to express ideas, the freedom of equality for all people, regardless of our differences. These are all things that Frederick Douglass, the freedom seeker, believed in and passed on to us here in the Rochester area. Rochester is proud to carry that legacy of freedom seeking forward in his name as we work to right the wrongs of the past, address segregation in our community and in our education. As we work to address the disparity in housing, nutrition, healthcare, and we break down barriers like the infrastructure and create opportunities. It falls to each of us to continue his fight for social, racial, and economic justice, making sure every individual has equity, justice, and opportunity, no matter who they are, what they look like, who they love, or here in Rochester, what zip code they live in. Through this statute, we honor the man, his work, and his gift to us. Let us also honor his legacy. Let us all follow his example as we address the struggles of our day, as he addressed the struggles of his day. Thank you again for all being here. Thank you to the community leaders and everyone who have been a part of making sure that we live the legacy of Frederick Douglass. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And we really appreciate everything you did for us. We're going to be calling you again. Monroe County has been a wonderful partner from the very beginning. As soon as Adam was elected, Chris and I started sending letters. You probably have them somewhere. You probably threw them away. But we wanted to do this. We thought no more fitting place should there be a representation of Douglass than the airport, which ultimately becomes his name. So without further ado, I'd like County Executive Adam Bellows to come forward with some words of encouragement.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you, Carvin, for that kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you. Welcome to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. It really is a pleasure to be with you, Kenneth, again, and Nettie, thank you for being here again. We were with each other just a few short months ago at Mount Hope Cemetery, and it's always a pleasure to be in your presence. Dr. Anderson, it's wonderful to be with you again as well. Thank you for being here and for your contributions to Frederick Douglass's legacy here in Rochester and around the world. You know, the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport is one of only 6 airports in the nation named after an African-American citizen. Today, it's very fitting that we're dedicating this artfully crafted bronze statue that's going to continue to weave the life and legacy of Frederick Douglass into the airport that bears his name. This really incredible project obviously would not have been made possible without the work of Carvin Eisen, members of the Frederick Douglass Historical Committee, and our friends at the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. Erica, it's great to be with you here as well, too, and all the work that FDFI does for our community. So let's give them another big round of applause for what they do. The work that the committee, the work that Erica and the team at FDFI is doing is going to ensure that Douglass's words, actions, and story will never be forgotten. I also want to add my thanks to Olivia Kim. What a beautiful, beautiful tribute that you made to Frederick Douglass and his family. So thank you for that as well. And again, as the previous speakers have said, none of this happens without a full commitment of the entire community. So I want to thank the whole community here in Monroe County for making this happen. You know, Monroe County is proud to be the home of one of the most impactful abolitionists in American history. And that is a pride that we need to make sure that we share with the entire world. And now everyone who flies through our airport will have that opportunity to share that pride that we feel and to learn more about our region's rich history and the social justice pioneers who called Monroe County home. Frederick Douglass has an unmistakable presence in our community, but we've also begun honoring and recognizing those who help with his life's work as well. Just recently, many of us who are here today had the chance to honor his wife, Anna Murray Douglass, and daughter Annie Douglass by installing headstones at their graves at Mount Hope Cemetery. That was a project that was born of the hard work of, again, Erica, FDFI, the Rochester Area Community Foundation. Simeon, thank you for that investment as well. And as we close our bicentennial celebrations here at the county, we want to make sure that the history of this community is told in every corner of the county. And that's why the statue is one of the largest, you know, think about this. This statue right here is at one of the largest transportation hubs in our region. It proudly proclaims to everyone who arrives here from all over the world that Frederick Douglass is part of the very fabric of who we are as Rochester and Monroe County. His history is our history. So we honor the past by remembering those who risked everything to build the future, by saying their names, by telling their stories. One of my favorite quotes from Douglass is from his newspaper, the North Star. He said, "Right is of no sex, truth is of no color. God is the Father of us all, and we are all brethren." The principles of civil and political equality Frederick Douglass fought for are an integral part of our community. And we're guided by his legacy as we strive to become a more fair, just, and equitable society. Monroe County is going to continue to stand with our partners at the City of Rochester and across the entire community to take a stand against racism, to fight against hate of any kind, and rebuild the systems that have held back our communities for far too long through the lens of equity and inclusivity. We're doing that by working closely with our friends at the City of Rochester, the Rochester City School District, the Urban League, and members of our community as we work through the recommendations of the Race Commission. We still have so much work to do, and we will take all of us working together to make those long-lasting and meaningful changes. So let this statue motivate us. Let this statue inspire us to put in that work every single day so that every person who calls our community home can live in harmony with equal access to those inalienable rights promised by our country's Constitution, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Thank you, and God bless you.
just want to also say that Airport Director Andy Moore and Steve Bars, who I think is here, and Bill Johnston are very instrumental in helping us make this happen. As recently as last night, Olivia and I were saying, there's no light on the man's face. We got to be able to see his face. And Bill went back and made some kind of great, extraordinary thing, a perfect connection. And this makes it better for us and better for travelers who will come here. So we really appreciate that. And I cannot stress enough our appreciation for the city of Rochester and the city of Rochester and all that you have done to help make this project and other projects happen, especially the franchise agreement between Rochester Community Media and the city of Rochester. And I know you're working on that very hard, and it's very important to all of us, right?
Nope.
But ladies and gentlemen, the mayor of Rochester, Malik Evans. Thank you very much.
Carvin Eisen, he should have been an attorney because he drives a hard bargain, but he does a good job, and we are blessed to have him in this community. Now, I behaved on a flight I was coming back from. I was happy the Bills won. I went to the Bills Baltimore Ravens game, and the flight attendant got on and said, we're approaching our initial descent to the greater Rochester Airport. Now, you model behavior for your children. So I said to the flight attendant, I said, I enjoyed the flight, but you got something wrong. I said, it's the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. Get it right. So that's my homework assignment for everyone here. When you're flying, I won't say what airline it was. We need to make sure we correct the airlines and make sure that they get it right. Douglass Airport. Douglass Airport. Let me thank Carvin and the people and all of the folks at Rochester Community Media for the Frederick Douglass family and the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative and everyone involved with the re-energizing the legacy of Frederick Douglass. It is an absolute honor to be able to be here, to look at this statue, and that I can say 50 years from now, I was here when this was unveiled. All of you here can say 50 years from now, you were here. Or your grandkids or great-grandkids can say, my grandmother or grandfather were here when this was unveiled. And sometimes when you're a part of history, to not really think about it. But you're here at this moment, at this historical moment, and this is a historical moment. Malcolm X, who I was named after, said of all of our greatest rewards, history is our greatest teacher. And this moment today is a history lesson that will provide education for generations to come. I want to thank New York State. Please, Secretary Maurice-Therese Dominguez, please give our thanks to the governor. New York State and this delegation, led by the Dean of the Delegation, Harry Bronson, Assemblymember Meeks, Clark, Lunsford, Senator Brooke, and Cooney, have been instrumental in bringing major infrastructure dollars here in the city. They need to brag more about it. $100 million for the interlude, and the millions. I mean, Adam Bello, God bless you, brother. You're getting a lot of money for this airport, and I know that the state and the federal government, along with our Congressman Joe Morelli, have been great in terms of the work. These investments make a difference, and I want to thank you for that. And then a special thanks to Ken Morris, Nettie Washington Douglas, and Erica Mock for working tirelessly to keep the legacy alive. You could be doing anything else, but you are making sure that you educate our community and that you make sure that you shed the light on why this matters, why this is important, and why we are all in this fight. And then lastly, Dr. David Anderson Sankofa, how I know, since I was a kid. Thank you for being a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. From the time I was a kid, he made Frederick Douglass come back to life. I remember him coming to number 12 school, which is now, as you know, Anna Murray Douglas Academy. That's right. Don't forget that either. So this man was educating folks about Frederick Douglass in Rochester, where a lot of folks who lived in Rochester all their lives, and they didn't know that Frederick Douglass spent most of his years here. Dr. David Anderson was doing that, so we thank him. And I'm a big fan of superheroes. I read comic books growing up, and you know, Carvin said that Olivia Kim could bend bronze to her will. Olivia Kim, thank you for being a superhero and building bronze to your will. And those statues that you have all around the city, where's Carvin? We'll have an announcement about that hopefully soon, about how we will continue that with the city of Rochester. The only other thing I want to say before I sit down, because I believe in the 5 B's, be brief, brother, be brief, is why is, 5 B's, preacher's kid, gotta be brief. Why is this important? Why is this important? I was in Mount Hope Cemetery yesterday. And Frederick Douglass, you know, they say if you put a stone or a pebble in a pond, there's a ripple effect. Frederick Douglass's ripple effect is everywhere. Part of that ripple effect is me standing up as the mayor of the city of Rochester. Part of that ripple effect is Ken Morris standing and working hard to continue to advance this legacy. Part of that ripple is Nettie Washington Douglass. But also part of that ripple, I saw it as I walked through I walked on Highland Avenue in Mount Hope Cemetery yesterday and saw the troops buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. Some of you may not know this, of the 54th Regiment. 54th Regiment in Massachusetts. If you remember, Frederick Douglass went to Abraham Lincoln during the war and said, listen, you let some black folks fight. And of course, you know what Abraham Lincoln said at first, nah, we don't need the black folks. Then he changed his mind because of Frederick Douglass. Think about that. An African-American man had the temerity in the 1800s to go to the President of the United States and say that you need to put black folks on the battlefield for them to be able to fight for their freedom. And some of those folks are buried, some of those soldiers are buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. That is the ripple effect of Frederick Douglass. But lastly, and most importantly, why this statue matters is because for some young black boy or young black girl, they are going to learn the name of Frederick Douglass and know that all that he went through and all that he did back in those days with the threats of violence, that he still was able to advance and chart the path for our people. That's why we do this. That's why this monument is important, because for some child, they will get the motivation to press on. They will get the motivation to continue to move forward. So this is why we continue to tell the Douglass story. So I know this work does not happen easy. It does not happen in isolation. And everyone in this room, I'm sure, played some role. So I want to thank all of you for recognizing that in order for us to make sure that all of history is told, that it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we understand that all of our greatest rewards are our history, and that Frederick Douglass is at the center of that. So thank you all for being here today, and I'm so grateful for this monument again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And you know, you raised such a great point, and I have to think, we often talk about these things. In his time, in Douglass's time, could he have imagined that the mayor of Rochester would happen to be a man who is black? Could he have imagined that? And could he have imagined even further that there were 2 other mayors who happened to be black, and one of them was a woman? You feel me? All right? Could he have imagined that at that time? We don't know, but it's certainly extraordinary. Now, our next speaker, I have to tell you, I could not have imagined meeting the 3 times great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, and on the side, the two-time great-grandson of Booker T. Washington, in the form of Kenneth B. Morris, Jr. I cannot believe that we have become friends. All the things that you have done to help us when letters needed to be written and phone calls needed to be made, because the secret is no good deed goes unpunished, right? So all of the work that you did behind the scenes and continue to do, we are honored. And Olivia will talk more about this, but these hands right here, these are Kenneth Morris Jr.'s hands. These are Ken's hands. These are Ken's hands. So it's so beautiful, the past and the present coming together to lead the way to the future. So without further ado, Ken, please come and deliver us some killer remarks.
Thank you. Wow. It's not every day that an airport is named for your ancestor, or that there's a statue erected in his honor. And so, if you can imagine, this is an overwhelming afternoon for our family. And perhaps I should have gotten with Carvin earlier to take whatever it is that he took.
It's legal in New York.
Mayor said it's legal in New York. We can edit all this out. My name is Ken Morris, and I am, as you heard, the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick and Anna Murray Douglass. And I'm very proud of that. I'm also co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. We're an abolitionist and anti-racist organization with a mission to build strong children and to end systems of exploitation and oppression. Frederick Douglass was the first African-American nominated for Vice President of the United States, first African-American U.S. Marshal, first African-American Ambassador and Consul General in Haiti, first African-American Recorder of Deeds in the District of Columbia, and as you've heard, the first African-American to have a statue dedicated in his honor right here in Rochester, New York. And people would see this white-haired statesman later in his life, and they would say, Frederick, I need to know, where did you go to school? Where did you get your education? And having never spent one day of his life in a classroom, he was a self-taught scholar. He would answer on occasion and say, my diploma is written on my back. My diploma is written on my back. And of course, he was talking about the 20 years that he was enslaved with the name Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. And so again, it is my honor to be here with you this afternoon to celebrate this unveiling. Frederick Douglass died on February 20th, 1895, and after his death, John W. Thompson, a black activist, oversaw the creation of a monument to honor the life, legacy, and work of my great ancestor. A statue was dedicated in his honor on June 9th, 1899 at the train station here in Rochester, and June 9th happens to be my birthday. The original monument's form is a bronze statue of Frederick Douglass depicting him with outstretched hands. And here's what I love about that statue. My great-great-grandfather, Charles Remond Douglass, who was Frederick and Anna's youngest son, posed for the body for the sculptor Sidney W. Edwards. And so I'm honored to continue the family tradition of posing for Frederick Douglass statues, providing the molds for the hands of this monument, which connect my ancestors' legacy to the present day and next generation of leaders in the mold of Frederick Douglass. For it was Frederick Douglass who said it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. During the Douglass Bicentennial in 2018, it was incredibly heartwarming to see all the photographs of children touching my hands on the 13 monuments erected around the city, connecting them to my great-great-grandfather Charles and then to Frederick. Hands that touch my hands also touch the hands of history. There was a big crowd that showed up that day in 1899 to honor this great man who had passed away 4 years earlier. You can do a Google search and see photographs of that celebration, and you will see large crowds of people as far as the eye can see, There were people hanging out of the windows of the buildings, and the citizens of Rochester hung flags and bunting to decorate all of those buildings. The ceremony was a very public occasion. It was attended by members of the Douglass family. This, of course, is a public occasion, and I'm proud to introduce you once again to the reason why I'm here, my mother, Nettie Washington Douglass, the great-great-great-granddaughter of Frederick Douglass. Mom, please stand up again so people can see you and say hello. I love you, wouldn't be here without you. Mom and I are humbled by this incredible dedication to our ancestor. We thank FDFI board member and my good friend and brother, Carvin Eisen, for his vision, dedication, and steadfastness in bringing this project to fruition. Thank you, my brother. And we thank the whole Rochester community for all of the work that each and every one of you in this room did to make this happen today. So thank you very much for being here today. JD, thank you for your work that you've done all of these years. And then Dr. Sankofa Anderson, my mentor for 20-plus years, thank you on behalf of the family of Anna and Frederick Douglass for your work. Once again, give him a hand, please. And the woman who works alongside him, Ruth Anderson. Give her a hand, please. Because there would be no Dr. Anderson without Ruth Anderson. I pray that people traveling in and out of the city will take a moment to pause and reflect on his life and legacy when they see this monument or hear his name reverberate throughout the airport. And that reminds me, we still have a lot of work to do to make sure his name reverberates, because right now, as you heard from the mayor, if you fly in or out, or you Google search the airport or walk through it, there's scant evidence that this airport is named for him. So there are some very important people and dignitaries and delegates that are here today who can help change this. So we will continue to work on that with everyone's help and your agitation of our elected officials. Remember what Frederick Douglass said: agitate, agitate, agitate. So what are you going to do? That's right. Thank you to the brilliant artist Olivia Kim. I can't believe it's been more than 6 years since I sat with you and you modeled my hands so delicately and with such artistic flair. And you put, I don't know if you remember this, but you put about 20 stickers on my face to measure my facial features with a caliper to compare it to Frederick Douglass's facial features. And you also captured his death mask through 3D modeling of the original statue. And you told me that the only difference between our faces is his ears were bigger and his nose was bigger. And you said that's because he was older. So 6 years later, my ears are catching up. It's a beautiful monument. Thank you so much. While we celebrate this recognition with hope-filled hearts, I am mindful that names on buildings and bronze sculptures tend to fade from memory with the passage of time. Airports are bustling gateways with travelers leaving town and hurrying to reach final destinations. When traveling through Chicago, New York, Atlanta, or Washington, D.C., how often do we pause to remember those whose names memorialize those buildings? Several years ago, while I was waiting to catch a flight here in Concourse A, I struck up a conversation with a person sitting next to me. She was a native Rochesterian and had received her degree from a prestigious university in town, one that will remain nameless. When the topic turned to work, she asked what I did for a living, and I said proudly that I was president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives and a descendant of Frederick Douglass. I expected to see recognition in her eyes, but instead she asked, "Who is Frederick Douglass?" Well, I said, pointing toward the name above the concourse entrance, "He's the person for whom this terminal is named." My encounter with the traveler that day illustrates the importance of education.
particularly where African American history is concerned, our shared American history. As we reckon with America's Confederate past and we see long simmering racial and ethnic tensions intensify around statues, there is an urgent need to erect monuments that bring communities together rather than tear them apart. Bronze statues carry the power of symbolism. They make profound statements about the individual and the ideals, values, and principles they espoused. They persuade people to stop, contemplate, and learn. A monument dedicated to Frederick Douglass's memory inside the Rochester airport will send a powerful message for travelers about the important. You can see I spend a lot of time in schools because when the principal makes an announcement, you need to stop.
Current local time is now 12:30 p.m.
Okay, I think we're getting close to wrapping up. It will send an important message about education and literacy, about freedom, about justice, about equality, about human rights, about self-liberation, and about knowledge, and especially about agitation. I truly believe that his commanding presence and spirit can provide sort of a healing balm that could help set the nation on a course toward truth-telling, then reconciliation, healing, and unification. But I will add, without a reckoning, a true reckoning and truth-telling of our past, we don't get to healing and reconciliation. This beautiful bronze memorial erected to our great ancestors' honor will tell the world that Rochester and its citizens are committed to advancing freedom, justice, and equality for all, just like Frederick Douglass. Thank you all very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Wow. I have no idea what Kim Morris was talking about when he said earlier that I took something to calm down. And I can tell you that this part is true. I have been bouncing off the ceiling. Ghislaine will confirm that, Chris will confirm that, and everybody else will confirm that that knows me, because this was so important. But we're all good. How many people in here have in some relationship, in some way, have a relationship with SUNY Brockport? Raise your hand. I'm always excited to do this because whenever we do this, the majority of people in the room have some connection to SUNY Brockport. And it delights me to have had my teaching career in one place. I am 30 years a professor at Brockport, and I'm facing my retirement. It's looking at me. And with that, I would love to introduce Dr. McPherson, Dr. Heidi McPherson, who is the president of the college. And I have to say this, when this project was fledgling, and it wasn't certain that we were going to be able to go forward because it needed my full attention in the fundraising department, Dr. Joes Malik, and dean of our school, and Dr. McPherson, on an emergency, gave me a sabbatical, and I am so honored because this is the result of your work, and I appreciate it. I want to say that in public. Dr. McPherson.
Good afternoon. It is such an honor to be invited to be part of such a special occasion, one in which we get a chance to honor perhaps the most significant and impactful individual in our area's rich history. Now, each of us here today has a different connection to Frederick Douglass. Kin, artistic subject, passion project, legacy, scholarly interest. My connection to Frederick Douglass is both scholarly and professional. I am an American Studies scholar. American Studies is a subject I didn't know existed until I left the United States and emigrated to Great Britain. While in the United Kingdom, my American Studies colleagues assigned narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass as a set text for all American Studies majors. Our British students knew more about than their American colleagues did about Frederick Douglass's legacy and his place in U.S. history, and that's part of what we need to change, isn't it? Professionally, I am president of SUNY Brockport. Earlier this month, SUNY Brockport honored Fannie Berrier Williams, our first African-American alum who graduated in 1870, by naming our liberal arts building after her and by commissioning a sculpture by Olivia Kim. The connection to today's event is not just in the beauty of the work of this amazing artist, but also because Fannie Berrier Williams knew Frederick Douglass. In 1856, Douglass traveled to Brockport and met Fannie's father, Anthony Berrier. Later, Fannie Berrier relocated to D.C. and moved again in Frederick Douglass's circles. In fact, it was at a party at Frederick Douglass's house that Fannie Berrier met her soon-to-be husband, Samuel Williams, and cemented her lifelong commitment to social justice. Now, why, you might ask, am I focusing on this story here at the unveiling of a statue of Frederick Douglass? Because Fannie Berrier Williams contributed to Booker T. Washer's biography of Frederick Douglass. And because Fannie Berrier Williams' own biographer, Wanda Hendricks, flew in to the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport in order to take part in the building renaming just a few short weeks ago. This is a factor that did not go unnoticed by her biographer. Frederick Douglass lives on. His legacy lives on. Scholars at Brockport engage with Frederick Douglass's legacy and Fannie Berrier's in intellectual contributions such as conference presentations, published articles, exhibits, in devising walking tours with an educational purpose, and in grant funding, in helping to raise money for statues of Frederick Douglass that are throughout our wonderful city, including at the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center, of which SUNY Brockport is the sponsoring campus. Scholars from history, journalism, filmmaking, media studies, communication, African and African American studies, women and gender studies, the visual studies workshop, and English, to name just a few areas, were attracted to Brockport because of Douglass's legacy, and they continue to give back in professional service to their subject areas, to the university, to the wider community. Scholars like Mr. Carvin Eisen, who has taken a lead in helping make this moment possible, and in consistently, and as we have heard, insistently, making sure our city remembers and honors Frederick Douglass's legacy. Carvin, I am so grateful you have chosen to make SUNY Brockport your academic home.
Thank you. Thank you, President.
Returning for just a moment to American Studies, a UK colleague of mine, my dear friend, Celeste Marie Bernier, took part in an event at the Memorial Art Gallery in April, organized by the Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. Scholars like Professor Bernier come to Rochester because of Frederick Douglass. What better way to welcome them to our beautiful city and to enrich their scholarly paths than by ensuring they pass through the Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport. And with the unveiling of this amazing and beautiful new statue, it is wonderful that everyone who travels to and from our city will be greeted by this visual and powerful reminder of Frederick Douglass's lasting impact. It is an honor he so richly deserves. I want to thank everyone who helped make this day possible, especially Carvin and Olivia. Thank you for letting me be part of this important day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President McPherson. And thank you to Dean Jones. Dean Jones helped me craft the language that got me a sabbatical to finish this project. And I will be forever thankful, because I was going to quit. I was going to retire. But good. Thank you. Now, one of the moments that we've all been waiting for. I cannot say enough about this woman, all right? I cannot say enough about Olivia Kim. This is a skill set that we have lost, essentially. It is very difficult to do this kind of work. And the majority of people who are doing work at this level are not women. So for Olivia Kim to produce this work through the challenges that life threw at her, and I mean, she had to deal with something that we all eventually have to deal with, while at the same time having to stay on deadline and deliver something that was going to be meaningful. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You could make me cry thank you, forever we will be linked in this. And we have more work to do. And please come and say something to us about why you did it.
Thank you. You give me shivers. Ooh, Miss Miller. She was my dance teacher for African Caribbean dance in high school. Yep. Local, right? That's kind of what's so nice, right? Many of us have grown up here, and so the kind of camaraderie that we feel is quite natural. It's not like you're looking at somebody and you're thinking, God, get them off. Who is that person, right? You know? Well, I just want to thank you. This project, as you all know, at least my phase of the sculpture aspect of the 2018 bicentennial celebration was actually a volunteer project. And we had about over 200 volunteers come. They were coming from the local Rochester scene. We had people coming even from different countries sometimes, you know. Had someone from England, someone from Germany. It's someone from out of state, found out about it through social media and came over. It was phenomenal. So I gotta say, Mr. Douglass, okay, he knows how to set things up so that things move harmoniously. Now there was a harmony, a buttery harmony. You know when you have that butter and you're like, rich. Everything is just melding together, okay? People from all walks of life came, all not really knowing how to make sculpture. And with this kind of childlike joy, we're able to put together, actually 16 Frederick Douglass sculptures, 13 for the streets of Rochester. One went to, I saw Michelle Daniels over there, went to her home. Thank you, Michelle. She also helped fund the South Ave Douglass. Mr. Garth Fagan, for your illustrious dance, the North Star. Okay, RIT, Memorial Art Gallery, teaming up with St. John Fisher College. We're very thankful that there was so much support. But really, oh my gosh, it was the salt of the earth. That is what we are, isn't it? We are the salt of the earth. And I think that's why Douglass, everybody wants to own him. Because deep, profoundly in our hearts, we know that we all come from the same place. And it is profound. So I really thank all of you. From the top down, bottom up, really it all comes from the same place. And I think maybe we could say that Mr. Douglass, you know, now that technology is such a big thing, right? I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of people don't even really talk to each other anymore. I'd like to say that Mr. Douglass, right here, a real infrastructure, right? The technology of the heart, the technology of spirit, is here to remind us we are the salt of the earth, but we also come from the same heart. So I hope that this Douglass, which was actually made mostly solitary, this actually was the worst project of my life. I can laugh because the thing is done. I was screaming the other day, but you know, Mr. Douglass, like I said, he knows how to make things harmonious, smooth as butter. This time, he made it hard, and I've been stabbed. I've been ripped down and stabbed and torn apart. And I think, in a sense, butter in the beginning, and then salt, harsh salt at the end, it really shows you the quality of heart that we have. you know. And I hope that you will remember that the artist journey is the creative journey, and we are actually all artists. We are actually all creative. And it's just a gentle opening of the heart that really does help us remember that we, the salt of the earth, can change ourselves if we need, and do a little adjustment if necessary. So thank you very much. It really touches me that you're here. And I love the wah! When it came, I was like, oh my gosh, they like it, thank goodness. But thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for this opportunity, and please support the arts when you can, because artists are not starving, they are thriving. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you very, very much for what you've given the world. Oh, we're getting near the end. We're getting near. We have often said that our remembrance of Douglass are not just about the past, but also about positioning us toward the future. Douglass was well known as an educator. He valued education, and he fought for educational opportunities for his daughter and for all people, really. Famously, he said, "It is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men." And with that, let us pull the curtain off this.
Bring it on, Doctor.
I could almost cry now, because this is the completed monument. These two children, who we'll meet in a moment, will be created in bronze to stand before this monument in perpetuity, so that this gives me joy at a level I cannot tell you. We were commissioned to do this, but one night I'm scrolling through my cell phone and I see this picture, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, and thank God it hit me while we could still do something about it, that this is the monument for the future. Because Stanley Edwards, the great work that he did, we have the original version. So what can we bring to it new, right? How can we lead the way to the future? Except through our children. So I want to invite Simeon and the two children up for just a moment to say something, because these are our models. And Akia as well, please, the whole family, come up.
It truly is a pleasure to be here for such a momentous occasion as this one. And I will tell you just really quickly about the power of art to all of my friends in elected office. We certainly watched with bated breath as you made your comments, but Olivia took her phone out and started recording Olivia Kim when she started talking. Typically, I would bring you greetings from the Community Foundation. And this is a day that, if you'll indulge me, I will take off our President and CEO of Community Foundation hat and set that to the side and greet you as a dad. A dad of Julian and Olivia, and a husband to Akila, recognizing how critical this wonderful opportunity is for our community. Our mayor was talking earlier about Abraham Lincoln being convinced by Frederick Douglass to engaged the 54th Massachusetts Regiment to enter the battle for the Civil War. And the other part of that story is that Abraham Lincoln, part of his resistance started to fade because the Union Army had been getting its teeth kicked in from Antietam to Vicksburg. And as they started to realize that they could not win this war, they couldn't do it without including all of the people. And if that's not a lesson for us today here in Rochester, New York, I don't know what is. As I look at my children and I think about the community that they will inherit, I know that that community can only be strong and resilient for them, and vibrant and growing and thriving for them, if all the folks in our community have the opportunity to engage. We talked about statues to people like Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. So much rancor, anger, antipathy, but in the storied tradition of American reductionism, a debate about statues was reduced, particularly in a season like this, to those binaries of red and blue, of DNR, of left and right, which obscures the deeper question that we have to wrestle with. Who are we? And who can we become? Who are we, and who can we become? There are some professors at St. John Fisher that are looking at the power of statues. They say that statues and memorials shape what we think is possible in the work of social justice. In other words, this is the abstract of a paper that they have written about the power of statues. In other words, their own standpoint enables and limits what they see in the assemblage of ideas, sometimes limiting the arc of social justice insights and solutions, and sometimes unleashing it. When I find myself dashing from meeting to meeting, a lot of times I see that statue and I catch Frederick Douglass's gaze, and he reminds me of the importance of these children. When I walk into those meetings where we talk about the issues of the day, that gaze reminds me that these are the issue not only of the day, but of tomorrow. And for people that come to this airport, that see this statue, see my kids, business people that come here so that they can work their deals, will be reminded that this is a community that's concerned about economic prosperity for everybody. And when family members come here, including your uncle, who might have one too many on Thanksgiving, he'll be reminded that we don't tolerate bigotry in this community. And when foreigners and immigrants arrive in our community, bring them on, Florida and Texas, Ambassador Douglass will remind us of the global perspective, and that indeed we are still willing to throw our arms around the cold, tired, and hungry, yearning to be free. When we complete this statue, we'll know, and our children will know, that all things are in fact possible, that this community has it in its DNA to fight for them, to build them with the strength that they deserve. And we will make good on the promise of Rochester, the spirit unleashed of social justice, and a future that is vibrant and better for all our kids.
This will be the first image that travelers coming to Rochester see when they arrive here, and the last image they take with them when they depart. And I am so honored and pleased to be part of that. And as long as we're talking about beautiful children, can we all thank the students of Edison Tech for providing the culinary delights that we will have in just a moment. I'm so proud to have them here. An anonymous donor has made sure that each of them will have a book, the bicentennial version of Frederick Douglass's autobiography. Each of them will have one of those, and we're so delighted. They will remember going forward that they were here. They will tell their grandchildren and their children's children about what happened here today, what we did as a community. So before we say the final closing, I would like to invite up, just a moment, Aisha DaCosta and Zahaya Roll to sing for us. Thank you.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, oh, glory, glory, glory. Oh, one day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, war isn't over. Victory is not won. We will fight on to the finish. And when it's all done, we'll cry glory, 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 glory. Oh, one day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Now the war isn't over. The victory is not won, but we'll fight on till the finish. And when we're all done, we'll cry glory, glory. We'll cry glory, we'll cry glory. Oh, glory, oh, glory.
Thank you ever so much. Glory. In closing, we're there now. I just want to thank everybody in this room. We are all Frederick Douglass. All of us have a piece of this, right? Remember in the film Spartacus, the end of Spartacus, they're looking for Spartacus, and they say, and he says, I'm Spartacus, and then everybody says, no, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus, I'm Frederick Douglass. You are Frederick Douglass. They are Frederick Douglass. We are all Frederick Douglass. We all have a piece of this, and it is our responsibility for these young ones and all the young ones who come forward after us when all our summers are gone and our springs are gone. This will be here, and it will be projecting the values that we know are important, that have always sustained us. We can't hear Douglass fatigue. At the beginning of this, I'm starting to hear, oh, we have a little bit of Douglass fatigue. We cannot let that happen. We cannot let that happen as a community. Can I get your assurance that we will not allow that to happen? All right? We will not allow that to happen. So thank you. And thank you to my board of directors at the Rochester Community Media Center, including Zelda Arson-Critchlow, who is here, Kareem Hayes, who was a former student of mine, another graduate, the college at Brockport, everybody who is here. Thank you so much. The National Endowment for the Arts, thank you again. It wouldn't be possible. The state of New York and the people of New York and the people of Rochester, New York, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lipman, who stood up when we needed your help. And thank you to the college, the university, SUNY, Brockport, for helping to make this happen. We are all part of this now. And thank you most especially, Olivia Kim. Thank you.